Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real quick. If you don't take control of your life, life will control you. And I promise you, life don't care about your excuses, your background, or your sob story. You are the CEO of your life. That means every decision, every move, every step you take, it's on you. You're not just a passenger on this ride. You're the driver, the navigator, and the one in charge of maintenance. You set the vision. You decide the direction. You choose who gets a seat at your table. If something's not working in your life, your job, your relationships, your mindset, it's your responsibility to change it. Now, think about what a real CEO does. A CEO doesn't sit around blaming the employees when the company fails. A real CEO doesn't say, well, I didn't feel like showing up today. No, they show up regardless of how they feel. They study, they lead, they make tough calls, and when things go wrong, they don't look for who to blame, they look for how to fix it. That's the same attitude you need with your life. Stop pointing fingers. Stop saying they didn't support me or they did me wrong. That might be true, but it doesn't change your responsibility. When you take on that CEO mindset, everything shifts. You don't just react to life anymore. You start to run it. You wake up and plan your day with purpose. You start asking questions like, is this relationship helping me grow? Or is this habit getting me closer to where I want to be? And if the answer is no, you adjust. You don't explain. You don't apologize. You just shift because you understand every minute you spend on the wrong thing is a minute stolen from your dream. Sometimes being the CEO of your life means making decisions that hurt in the short term but pay off in the long run. It means cutting off people who drain you even if you've known them for years. It means turning off the TV and picking up a book. It means saying no to things that look good but don't align with where you're going. CEOs don't just do what feels good, they do what's necessary. And let's talk about accountability. A CEO doesn't clock out at 5 p.m. and forget about the business. It's on their mind constantly. That's how you need to treat your life, like it's your number one business. Because it is. Your time, your energy, your mental health, your goals, all of it is your most valuable currency. You can't afford to spend it carelessly. Being the CEO of your life doesn't mean you won't mess up. It means when you do, you don't fold. You learn, you recalibrate, you evolve. You don't cry about it for too long. You don't throw in the towel. You say, all right, that didn't work. What's next? Because quitting, that's not how a leader thinks. That's not how a CEO moves. There are people who wake up every day and let life happen to them, and then there are people who wake up and make life happen. The difference is mindset. The difference is who's holding the wheel. So stop letting fear be the boss. Stop letting your past be the boss. Take back your power. Own your story. Make the hard decisions. Restructure your circle. Change your habits. Shift your focus. Because at the end of the day, no one is going to care more about your life than you do. No one is coming to do the work for you. You are the one in charge. Always have been, always will be. Stop waiting for permission. You don't need a green light from anybody to start living the life you were meant to live. Too many people are sitting on dreams, ideas, talents, and goals because they're waiting for someone to validate them, waiting for approval, waiting for someone to say, yeah, you're ready now. But here's the truth. That moment may never come. And if you keep waiting, life is going to pass you by. Nobody is going to come knocking on your door and say, hey, we've all been talking and we think you're finally good enough to chase your dream. That's not how this works. If you want to do something, you've got to decide it's your time. Not next year, not when things are perfect, not when everyone around you claps and cheers. You have to decide that now is the moment. And once you do, you stop hesitating. You stop asking people what they think. You stop checking if it makes everyone comfortable, because greatness was never built inside a comfort zone. Some of the most talented people in the world are invisible, not because they're not good enough, but because they never gave themselves permission to shine. They're hiding, playing small, sitting in the back row of life when they were meant to be on the stage. And the reason? They don't feel ready. But nobody ever feels ready. That feeling is a lie your fear tells you to keep you still. The truth is, readiness is a decision, not a feeling. You grow by doing, not by waiting. Think about all the times you had an idea, but you talked yourself out of it because you thought, who am I to do this? That voice, that's not truth, that's fear. And fear loves it when you play it safe. But you don't need fear's permission. You don't need your family's permission. You don't need your friends' permission. You don't even need life to line up perfectly. You just need to start, to take one step, to believe that your voice, your vision, your energy matters, because it does. When you wait for permission, you give your power away. You hand the keys to your life over to people who aren't even living the kind of life you want. Think about that. You're letting people who aren't bold, who aren't fulfilled, who might even be afraid themselves, decide whether or not you get to go after something that sets your soul on fire. That's not fair to you. That's not fair to your gift. And let's be real. Some folks will never give you permission, not because you can't do it, but because deep down, your courage reminds them of the chances they never took. Your growth threatens their comfort. So if you're waiting on them to support you, you might be waiting forever. You've got to be okay with moving, even if they don't clap, even if they doubt, even if they talk. The world doesn't open doors for people who wait. It opens doors for people who knock, for people who show up, who bet on themselves, who speak before their voice is steady, who act before they're 100% sure. Because momentum builds confidence, not the other way around. You've got one life. And every second you spend waiting for permission is a second you could have been building, creating, growing, living. You don't need a stamp of approval. You don't need someone to co-sign your potential. You are enough right now to begin. All you have to do is stop asking and start walking. Excuses are the enemy of progress. They're dressed up real nice. They sound logical. They feel comfortable, and sometimes they even get you a pat on the back. But make no mistake, excuses are the chains that keep you stuck exactly where you are. Every time you make one, you're giving away a little bit of your power, a little bit of your potential, and a whole lot of your future. Excuses let you stay the same while pretending you're trying. They create the illusion of movement without the reality of change. You say things like, I don't have the time, or I'm too tired, or I'll start when things settle down. But deep down, you know the truth. If something really mattered to you, you'd make it happen. Time isn't the issue, discipline is. Desire is. Your excuses of just fear in disguise, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of discomfort. And instead of confronting that fear, we wrap it up in words that sound acceptable. But just because something sounds reasonable doesn't mean it's right. Progress doesn't care about your reasons. It doesn't care about your bad day, your past, your childhood, your boss, or your relationship drama. Progress only cares about one thing. Did you move forward today or didn't you? That's it. And if the answer is no, then all the explanations in the world don't change that fact. You can't grow and cling to excuses at the same time. It's one or the other. And the hard truth is that many people choose comfort over growth every single day and then wonder why nothing's changing. They get stuck in the same cycle, starting strong, then falling off, then blaming the same reasons they always do. And the worst part, they believe those reasons. But excuses only exist to make failure feel softer, to make not trying seem justified. You want to know the difference between people who rise and people who stay stuck? It's not intelligence, it's not talent, it's not luck. It's that the ones who rise don't make room for excuses. They feel the same fear. They face the same setbacks, but they don't let those things become their story. They look for solutions, not sympathy. They don't wait for perfect conditions. They don't expect the world to hand them anything. They just keep showing up no matter what. You've got to ask yourself, am I building my life or am I just explaining why it's not built yet? Because those explanations might feel good in the moment, but they'll cost you in the long run. They'll cost you your goals, your growth, your peace of mind. They'll cost you. Every time you catch yourself making an excuse, stop and ask, what would I do if this excuse wasn't available to me? If I couldn't say I'm too busy, what would I do instead? If I couldn't say I'm too tired, what step would I take? That's where the real answers live. That's where growth begins. Not when everything is lined up perfectly, but when you choose to show up anyway. Excuses feel like protection, but they're actually a trap. They keep you locked in the version of yourself you say you want to grow out of. So if you're serious about progress, you have to get serious about calling yourself out. You have to be honest, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's hard, because the moment you stop giving yourself an out is the moment you start moving forward for real. Discipline is greater than motivation. Motivation is that spark. It feels good. It's exciting. It's loud and energetic. It shows up when you're hyped, when the music's blasting, when the vision feels clear. But here's the thing. Motivation is temporary. It fades. It's based on how you feel in the moment, and feelings change fast. You can go to bed ready to conquer the world and wake up wanting to hit snooze for 3 hours. That's real. That's human. And if you're relying on motivation to carry you through, you're going to be inconsistent, because motivation is inconsistent. Discipline, on the other hand, is quiet. It's not flashy, and it doesn't always feel good, but it's steady. It shows up when you don't want to. It gets out of bed when your body says stay. It gets the workout done when your mind says skip it. It sticks to the plan even when the mood is gone. Discipline is showing up for your goals even when nobody's watching, even when no one's clapping for you, even when progress is slow and results haven't kicked in yet. Everybody's motivated on day one. Everybody's excited when they start, but what about day 20? What about when it's raining, you're tired, your phone is blowing up, and nothing seems to be working? That's when discipline steps in. That's when it matters most. Motivation will tell you, let's do it when it's convenient. Discipline says, we do this no matter what. You don't build greatness on hype. You build it on habits. Discipline creates those habits. Discipline is brushing your teeth every day, not because you're motivated, but because you made a decision and you follow through. That same principle applies to everything else. Your body, your finances, your mindset, your craft. When you commit to discipline, you stop waiting for the right mood and start creating the right momentum. And here's the truth. There are going to be way more days when you don't feel like it than when you do. You're not going to be inspired every morning. You're not going to feel like working hard every night. And if your success depends on your mood, then your future is in trouble. Because moods are unpredictable, but discipline is a choice. Every single day. You don't need to be fired up. You need to be locked in. You don't need to feel like it. You need to do it, because every time you follow through when you don't feel like it, you build trust with yourself. You teach yourself that your word means something, that you don't need to be pushed, that you don't break just because it's hard. Motivation might get you started, but discipline keeps you going. Discipline gets the book written. Discipline gets the business launched. Discipline gets the body in shape, the debt paid off, the mind sharpened. And the beautiful thing, discipline is something you can build. It's not magic. It's not genetic. It's just a muscle, and the more you use it, the stronger it gets. So while others are chasing motivation, chasing that next high, chasing a feeling, be the one who builds discipline. Be the one who shows up anyway. Because when the excitement is gone and the path gets tough, discipline will be the thing that carries you through. Not because it's easy, but because you've decided that your future is more important than your feelings. Your environment isn't your destiny. Where you come from, what you've been through, who raised you, what neighborhood you grew up in, none of that decides who you have to become. It may shape your starting point, sure. It may have influenced your habits, your beliefs, maybe even your fears, but it does not determine your limits. It does not get to write the final chapter. You do. Too often people look around at their surroundings and assume that's all there is. They take what's in front of them, the struggle, the dysfunction, the poverty, the pain, and they treat it like it's permanent, like it's a life sentence instead of a temporary condition. But just because you were born in a certain environment doesn't mean you're supposed to stay there. You're not a product of your surroundings. You're a product of your decisions. People use their environment as an excuse to stop trying. They say things like, nobody in my family ever made it out, or this is just how it is where I'm from. But that's a mindset, not a reality. There are people who have come from the worst imaginable circumstances and created incredible lives. Not because it was easy, not because the odds were in their favor, but because they refused to let their zip code define their potential. They understood that environments can be escaped, upgraded, transformed, but only if you believe that change is possible. Yes, your environment can affect you, no doubt. It can beat you down, drain you, convince you that small dreams are safer. But that's exactly why you got to stay aware. You got to guard your mind like it's sacred, because it is. If the people around you are negative, you've got to fight to stay positive. If no one around you believes in growth, you've got to be the first one to break the pattern. If the energy is toxic, you've got to be the one who chooses peace. You can't wait for your environment to change before you do, because in most cases, you are the change. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is remove yourself, step away from the noise. Take a walk outside of what's familiar, because when you see how big the world is, how many people are out there building, dreaming, striving, you realize that your current environment is only one version of reality. There are countless others. You just haven't stepped into them yet. But maybe you can't leave just yet. Maybe your circumstances physically have you stuck for a little while. That's real. But even then, you can start shifting the environment inside your head. You can build a new world with books, with thoughts, with goals, with prayer, with journaling, with discipline. You can start surrounding yourself with new energy digitally through what you watch, who you listen to, who you follow. You can train your mind to think beyond your surroundings. And once your mind shifts, your reality has no choice but to follow. You are not stuck unless you believe you are. And if you believe you're bigger than your environment, that belief alone can move mountains. Your environment might explain you, but it doesn't define you. It might show where you started, but it doesn't control where you end up. That power has always belonged to you. The question is, are you ready to use it? Growth requires discomfort. There's no way around it. If you want to evolve, truly evolve, you're going to have to get uncomfortable. You're going to have to stretch yourself in ways that don't always feel good, because nothing worth becoming is born from comfort. Comfort is where routines live, where habits repeat, where life stays the same. But growth lives in resistance. It lives in friction. It lives in those moments where everything inside you wants to turn back, but something stronger pushes you forward. When a seed is planted, it doesn't sprout without a little pressure. It breaks through the soil, pushing against the weight of the dirt above it. That's discomfort, that's struggle, but that's also necessary. Without it, nothing blooms. People want the bloom without the breaking. They want the reward without the stretch. But that's not how this works. You don't get to level up without leaving something behind. An old mindset, a toxic habit, a limiting belief, a version of yourself that no longer fits. Discomfort shows up as fear, as doubt, as resistance. It whispers, you can't do this, or this is too hard, or just stay where it's safe. But that voice isn't there to stop you, it's there to test you. It's asking if you're serious, if you're ready, if you're willing to push through the awkward, the painful, the unknown. Growth doesn't come to those who dabble. It comes to those who commit, even when it hurts. Think about the gym. You don't build muscle by lifting the same light weight over and over. You build muscle by increasing resistance, by going beyond what's comfortable. Your muscles break down so they can come back stronger. The same principle applies to your life. Every time you do something that scares you, speak up, show up, try again, you're stretching your capacity. Every uncomfortable conversation you have, every boundary you enforce, every moment you choose discipline over ease. That's growth in action. And let's be honest, most people avoid discomfort like it's the plague. They run from it, numb it, ignore it, but then they wonder why their life looks the same year after year. If you're not willing to be uncomfortable, you're not willing to grow. It's that simple. But the truth is, your comfort zone is a beautiful place, but nothing ever grows there. Growth requires you to face yourself. It requires you to admit what's not working, to ask hard questions, to sit with painful answers, to confront your own excuses. That's not easy. That's not comfortable, but it's necessary. Because the version of you that's living inside your potential, they waiting on the other side of that discomfort. They don't live in the same space as fear. They live in the space that's created when you move through it. You got to be okay being the beginner. You got to be okay not knowing, not being great, not feeling strong, at least not at first. Because growth doesn't come dressed as success. It comes dressed as struggle, as sweat, as this might not work. But if you push through that, if you lean into the discomfort instead of running from it, you'll come out the other side changed, wiser, sharper, stronger. So don't fear the discomfort, respect it, welcome it, because every time it shows up, it's not there to break you, it's there to build you. It's proof you're in motion. It's a sign that something in you is expanding. That's not weakness, that's progress. And the more you embrace that, the more unstoppable you become. Protect your circle. The people you surround yourself with will either push you forward or pull you back. They are either fuel to your fire or water on your flame. You cannot afford to ignore the influence of your environment, not just the physical one, but the personal one. The energy you allow around you matters more than you realize. The conversations you entertain, the opinions you absorb, the habits you witness daily, they all shape you. You become like the people you're around. That's not opinion, that's fact. Some people in your life aren't growing, not because they can't, but because they don't want to. They've made peace with staying where they are, and if you're not careful, they'll convince you to settle too. They'll disguise it as being realistic or keeping it humble, but in reality, it's just fear talking. And if you keep them too close, their fear will become your fear. Their limitations will start sounding like truth. That's why protecting your circle is not about being rude, it's about being responsible. You can't let everybody have access to you just because they've known you a long time. Time doesn't equal alignment. Loyalty doesn't mean enabling. If someone constantly drains you, belittles your dreams, doubts your potential, or pulls you into gossip, negativity, or distractions, that's not your circle. That's your cage. You need to know the difference. Energy is contagious. So if your circle is full of people who make excuses, who complain all day, who always play the victim, guess what you're absorbing? That becomes your atmosphere. That becomes your norm. But if your circle is made up of people who push themselves, who talk solutions instead of problems, who hold you accountable to your greatness, that changes everything. That lifts you, that reminds you who you are when you forget. And no, this isn't about surrounding yourself with perfect people. It's about surrounding yourself with real people, people who are honest with you, who check you when you're slipping, who clap for you without jealousy, who speak life into your vision. That's a real circle. People who are not threatened by your growth, but inspired by it. People who don't compete with you, but build with you. People who don't let you self-destruct, even when you feel like giving up. You've got to be intentional about who gets your time, your energy, your mind. Not everyone deserves a front row seat in your life. Some folks need to be moved to the balcony. Some need to be shown the door. And that's okay. Protecting your circle is not about cutting people off recklessly. It's about creating space for what you truly need. Peace, purpose, progress. You don't owe unlimited access to anyone. You owe it to yourself to guard your focus, your growth, your peace of mind. So take inventory. Who's around you? Are they sharpening you or dulling you? Are they speaking life or sowing doubt? Are they helping you build or pulling you back into the same cycles? If the answer makes you uncomfortable, good, that's awareness. And awareness is the first step to change. Because the truth is, you can be driven, talented, hungry, but if your circle isn't aligned with your mission, your progress will always be slower than it could be. Protect your circle like your future depends on it, because it does. Control your time, because if you don't, someone else will. Time is the most valuable thing you've got, more than money, more than talent, more than connections. You can lose money and make it back. You can fail and start over. But once time is gone, it's gone for good. It doesn't come back. And that's why you got to guard it with everything you've got. Most people don't lose their potential because they aren't capable. They lose it because they waste time. They spend their hours reacting to life instead of directing it. They wake up and check their phone, respond to messages, get caught up in distractions, scroll mindlessly, go through the motions, and before they know it, the day's gone. Then the week's gone. Then years have passed, and they're still talking about one day. That's not life happening. That's time slipping through your fingers. You got to stop treating time like it's unlimited. You don't have forever. That's not to scare you. That's to wake you up. Every second you spend on something that doesn't matter is a second you're stealing from something that does. Every I'll do it later is a quiet gamble that you have a later to work with. The truth is, the life you want, the vision you have, the goals you talk about, they all require time. Focused time, protected time. And that only happens when you take control of it. Controlling your time starts with clarity. You've got to know what matters to you. You've got to decide what you're building, who you want to become, what your priorities are. Once you know that, everything else becomes easier to measure. If it's not aligned, it doesn't get your time. If it doesn't add value, it doesn't get your energy. That's not being harsh. That's being focused. People will demand your time all day long. Emails, messages, favors, drama, distractions. They're always knocking. And if you don't have a plan for your time, you'll end up living in someone else's. You'll spend your days fulfilling someone else's vision instead of your own. That's how dreams die, not in one big crash, but in thousands of tiny moments where you say yes to the wrong things and later to what matters most. You need boundaries. Not just with people, but with yourself. Set hours for your goals. Block out space to think, to create, to rest. Don't just work hard, work intentionally. Know where your hours are going. Track them if you need to. Audit your days like your success depends on it, because it does. Control doesn't mean rigidity. It means ownership. It means being the one in the driver's seat instead of riding shotgun in your own life. It means you don't wait for time to show up. You schedule it, you protect it, you guard it like your life depends on it, because the quality of your life is the quality of how you use your time. At the end of the day, your time is your life. That's the trade you're making every time you commit to something, time out of your one and only life. So make it count. Be ruthless about your schedule, not because you're too busy, but because your purpose is too important. You don't get more time. You just get to choose how you spend it. So spend it wisely. So let me leave you with this. Your life is not a game of chance. It's a series of choices. And every choice you make, every boundary you set, every excuse you let go of, every minute you protect, that's you taking control. You don't need anyone's permission to change. You don't have to wait for the perfect time, the perfect support, or the perfect plan. What you do need is to decide right now that you're done living on autopilot. You were not put on this earth just to survive, just to exist, just to blend in. You were built to lead yourself, to rise above your circumstances, to walk in purpose, to live a life that reflects who you truly are. But that only happens when you take full ownership of your time, your energy, your environment, your habits, your mindset, and your circle. This is your life. Don't hand it over to doubt. Don't hand it over to fear. Don't hand it over to anyone else. Control your life, because no one else is qualified to do it for you.